we're going to talk about alternating pumps. And this circuit and program is going to be very similar to the previous circuit with two floats controlling a pump. But in this case, we're going to have two pumps. And one pump will go on when needed. When the level goes back down to normal, then and goes back up again, then we'll use the other pump. And the pumps will alternate. We're going to use some of the same commands, the if then, the go to. This time we're going to use a variable, and depending on the value of that variable, we'll use one pump or the other. So that variable would be P, and P standing for pump. And the variable could be any letter, but I chose P. And if it's one pump is on, we'll change that variable so that the next time we get to the conditional statement, which looks at the value of the variable, then the next pump will be determined. So we got basically the same setup as last time. We still have our computer, our microcontroller, our tank with the two floats, the power. Now we have relays, because we have two pumps, so we're using two relays. And here's our schematic. And we have, same as before, 5 volts going to each float, which is normally closed. The only difference is, now instead of one input from P14, we have two inputs. We have P14 and P15 are going to be going to the dual relay, the dual relay or the double relay. And they will be controlling the two different relays that are on the same circuit board. So what we have to do is just take a jumper from the source and of this common on this relay, bring it over to the other relay, and for pump 2. So not much of a difference in the wiring with the second pump. Let's discuss the flowchart and the program. So we start, as in the previous example of the one pump that we had in the past session. We had one pump with two floats, but now we have two pumps with the same two float switches. So we start off the same, where we ask if the top float is up, and if it's not, the pumps stay off, and if it is, then we ask ourselves if P equals 1. P is our variable, and P, the value of P is going to determine if we're going to have pump 1 on or pump 2 on. Whatever pump we turn on will change the value of P, so that the next time around a pump needs to turn on, the other pump will go on. So let's zoom in a little bit on our circuit here, and we have is, so if we ask if P equals 1, and if it is, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make P equal 2, so that next time we ask the question, we take the other route. Then we're going to turn on pump 1, and once the bottom float is all the way down, we're going to shut off the pump. But if the bottom float is not all the way down, then we're going to keep on pump 1. Now once the pump shuts off, we're going to ask ourselves again, is the top float up? And if it is, we're going to ask if P equals 1. Now P is not going to equal 1 once the first pump went on, because we then changed P to 2. So therefore now P equals 2. So we go down this way. And as we can see, we're going to change P to 1 for next time. But we're on this path, and pump 2 is going to go on, and pump 2 will stay on until the bottom float goes down. Once the bottom float goes down, both pumps will go off. Once the bottom float is down, pumps go off. And we have our program that I wrote after drawing the flow chart. I like to draw the flow chart first and then do the program. And same program as before, when we had one pump with 2 floats with a little bit added. And I'll highlight the added parts. We have the P is a variable. We start off with P equals 1. And let's see. Same as a conditional statement as before. If in3 equals 0, that means if the top float is up. That's not the case, then we shut off the pump, go to off pumps, just like we had before. We have this new subroutine called what pump. And in italics you could see my notes there. The subroutine alternates the pump. And here we go. Here's the conditional statement about if P equals 1 or not. And if it does, we're going to turn on pump 1, and if it does not, we're going to go here and turn on pump 2. So let's highlight that section. So we have to have our variable P, like I said. We're going to start off with P equals 1. And we have our what pump subroutine. So that if a pump is going to go on, instead of like the previous program we wrote, where we just turned the pump on, now we have to figure out which pump we're going to turn on. So we have a little subroutine here. And just like the if statement says, P equals 1. Well, then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set P up to equal 2 for the next time around. And we're also going to go to on pump 1, that subroutine. If P does not equal 1, well, we're not going to go with this then statement. We'll go to the next line, where we're going to change P to 1, and then we're going to turn on pump 2. So that's our extra bit of software we put into the program in order to have the pumps alternate.